My name is Shumitra Mukherjee, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through a checklist that's going to help you decide whether our PhD program is the right choice for you. So let's begin. So here are the questions that you should ask yourself. Am I well prepared? Whom would I like to work with? What will the process be like, the dissertation process be like? And what is the most significant challenge that I might face? And I'm assuming that you have a good reason to earn a PhD. So let's start with the first question. Am I well prepared? Ask yourself these questions. Have I taken courses in my area of interest? For instance, if you want to work in the area of machine learning, make sure that you've taken courses in machine learning. Did I do well in those courses? So I'm assuming that you've earned an A in the courses in the area that you want to work on. But it's not enough to just having, you should not only have done well in the courses, but you should have also enjoyed the courses, because in the next few years, you'll be essentially using those models and algorithms and methods for your dissertation. So if you answer all these questions in the affirmative, then go ahead and ask yourself a few more questions. Can I apply the knowledge and skills that I acquired in those courses to solve new problems? Because in your dissertation, you'll be applying those models, methods, and algorithms to answer questions in a new area to make a contribution to a body of knowledge. And the last question you should ask yourself is whether you're confident that you can pick up new developments in the area that you want to work in. And that's because in the, while you're working on the dissertation, there might be new algorithms coming up. There might be new papers published in the subject, and you need to be aware of the new developments and pretty much learn on your own what's been happening, and if relevant, apply those models and methods to your work. So once you've convinced yourself that you're well prepared, you should decide on a faculty member who can best guide you through the dissertation process. So let's discuss that issue in some more detail. So identify a faculty member with whom you'd like to work and discuss your plans with her. And typically you choose a faculty member whose courses you have taken and and courses that you've enjoyed working in. If the faculty member is supportive of your plans to earn a PhD, then request a recommendation, because that increases the chances of your being accepted into the program. And if you are admitted, then seek her advice on what you'd need to do before you start off with the program, so that you're well prepared for the PhD program, so that you can hit the road running. So once you're convinced that you're well prepared and you've identified a potential dissertation advisor with whom you're going to work for the next few years to earn your PhD, you should consider applying. But you need to have a good understanding of what the process is going to be like and what the most significant challenges are likely to be. So let's talk about what the process is going to be like. So typically, you take about 3-4 credit doctoral research courses, and we call them 885 level courses, in which you identify a viable research topic and prepare an idea paper that is approved by your primary dissertation advisor and your dissertation committee members. And typically we have two other dissertation committee members. And once you have the approved idea paper, and the process, as I said, typically takes about 3 semesters, you start working on your dissertation. And you take 8 credit dissertation courses. And again, typically it takes at least 3 dissertation courses to complete your dissertation. And in these courses, you first extend and expand on your idea paper into a dissertation proposal. And what this entails is typically doing an exhaustive literature survey and laying out your research methodology in detail. So you have a blueprint that you can work on to complete your dissertation and answer the questions that you have identified. Again, you have to defend your dissertation proposal before your committee, and you also have to defend your final dissertation. That's the typical process. Now, what's likely to be the most significant challenge in the dissertation process? Let's spend a few minutes talking about that, because you need to understand that before you make a decision about whether to apply for a PhD program. I believe that the most significant challenge is to be able to identify suitable research questions to address in your dissertation. And what do I mean by a suitable research question? A research question should be precisely defined, it should be significant, and it should be tractable. And I'm going to have more to say about this in the next couple of minutes. So your research question should be precisely defined. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that the scope of your proposed work should be narrow, and the question should be close-ended. They should be very well defined so that you know that if you go through a certain process and apply certain methods, you should be able to answer the research questions. Your research question should be significant. What do we mean by that? You should be able to justify your proposed contributions to the body of literature easily. And I'll have more to say about that in a moment. You should be able to show that the questions that you're trying to answer are indeed significant in the sense that there's a consensus among researchers in the field that the questions that you're trying to answer are indeed important ones. And lastly, your research question should be tractable. What I mean by that is that you should be able to answer the questions posed using very well-established research methods. And these research methods should be well suited to your own background and strengths. So again, the research questions that you select should be well-defined, precisely defined, significant, and tractable. Now, in the process of selecting the research questions, here's something that might help. And I'd strongly suggest that you go through the process once, if you haven't done so before, as part of any of your coursework, even before you decide to apply for a PhD program. So here's what I mean. First, identify a few good articles from flagship journals or conferences in your area of interest that you'd like to build your dissertation on. So identify a few papers, maybe 1 or 2 papers, where you look at the paper and say, hey, I'd have loved it if I were co-author of this paper. And then you should also kind of convince yourself that you have the necessary background to be able to replicate their work. So once you've identified the paper, most good papers typically call for further research on specific issues. And if you just scan the concluding sections of the articles, they'll explicitly identify research questions as future research questions. Select a subset of those questions that you're best equipped to answer as the questions that you'll be working on for your dissertation. Then when it comes to justifying the significance of your work, you can just cite those articles and say that here there's a consensus amongst researchers in the area that indeed the questions that I plan to address are indeed significant research questions. And once you've gone through the process, try and draft this short idea paper. And you can organize it into 3 sections: problem, address, significance, and approach or methodology. And in the problem address section, you can briefly provide the motivation and background and define the precise research questions that you plan to address in your dissertation. In the section on significance, cite the relevant literature to show that there's a consensus among researchers in the area that indeed your proposed research contributions are significant, that others have called for research on that topic. And finally, in the approach section, demonstrate that you can actually answer the questions posed using very well-established research methodologies. So that's pretty much what an idea paper is all about. And you get about 3, you typically take about, most students take around 3 semesters to kind of come up with a topic, refine it, draft an idea paper, and after a couple of iterations, share it with your primary advisor. Will suggest that you guys should share it with the entire committee. And after another couple of iterations, typically the idea paper is approved by your dissertation committee. And that's when you start working on your proposal and finally your dissertation. And that's pretty much what the process is like. And if you have any questions regarding academic issues, especially in the areas that I teach, feel free to send me an email or send an email to any faculty members that you plan to work with. And if you have administrative questions about administrative issues, you can always contact the administration. Thank you. I'm going to end the meeting now.